All right, all right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. Welcome to Fight the Funk podcast. I'm Magic Collins, aka Magic Man, and we are exploring mental health, culture, and the world around us. And today I am bringing on Maisie Soetantyo, and I know she's going to correct me when she gets when she gets on. And I'm excited, man. Maisie is a founder of Autism Pathways, and their mission is to increase hiring and long-term retention for autistic individuals in small to medium-sized businesses, and they're located in San Francisco. And the reason why I've chosen, I'm one of the things I'm exploring is autism, and the Center for Disease Control and Prevention published the first study to estimate the prevalence of autism in the U.S. adults aged 18 and older. Findings estimate autism affects 1 in 45 of U.S. adults, and for children, 1 in 54. And so for me, it's another, like, how do we keep exploring mental health and exploring all angles of mental health as we move forward? And without further ado, they welcome Maisie to the stage. Welcome, Maisie. Welcome to Fight the Funk
Hey,
podcast. Yeah,
good
yeah.
morning.
Glad to have
Thank you
you.
so much for having me.
Yeah, so now you know, and I know why we both here, and that's to talk about basketball. So,
Yes, you gave me a clue that you're a Laker fan, and I'm
yes.
the Golden State Warriors.
Oh, man.
I
Oh,
am one of the Dubs, as they say it.
you're a dub.
So
Okay, okay.
I'm a Dub
Nice,
and
nice.
a Niner fan.
Yeah. Okay. I saw you sent me a video about the underdog, and I think
Hmm.
I think we all underdogs. So I love that video that you shared with me,
Hmm.
and Steph Curry's story and that Golden State that year and how tough that year was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, how would you say? Because he talked a lot. He talked a bit about blocking out the noise, and
Hmm.
I think that's important for all of us in
Yep.
all of our environments, like
Hmm.
work environment, or
Yeah.
it's like how do you execute and block out
Hmm.
the noise? And so
Hmm.
what is your, like, with your experiences in what you do? Like, tell first,
Hmm.
can we get a little bit about you and
Sure.
what you do?
Yeah. So I am actually a fairly recent diagnosed mom, coach. I was diagnosed with autism spectrum conditions. I'm a
Mm,
proud neurodivergent
mm,
with a sensory processing disorder, auditory processing disorder. I had learning challenges growing up. I
mm.
had still have number dyslexia, dyscalculia. So don't ask me about like numbers and things unless it's related to
Uh,
sports. I might be able to
okay,
answer you.
okay. So I'm not going to ask you about the make some calculations for me. Do some taxes with me or something like
I
none of
can't
that
help
stuff.
you with that.
Okay, none of that stuff.
No, no,
Okay,
no.
okay. Let me see.
Just when it
So,
comes to like sports
uh,
and like NBA standings and stuff like that, I might be able to answer that. But
uh,
yeah, so I grew up with uh, learning challenges,
mm,
and I was educated in Asia. Now
mm,
in Asia, if you don't excel in school, that's
mm,
tough,
mm,
and I can talk a lot about that. And I also have other uh, additional conditions often related to autistic people, of course,
mm,
because of our sensory differences. I have what they call the Erlin syndrome, which is an ocular, like visual distortions.
mm,
So it triggers migraines. So I
mm,
do experience like sensory burnout and experience pain in my body and like all
mm,
these things because my mind is built differently,
mm.
you
Now,
know. Yeah.
I was gonna say, like when you say that, I always also you have a amazing record as far as like you've gone to school in UCLA and studied like is this when you went to school, did you go to school to study neuro like just neurodivergent and
No, I didn't. No, I just when I was an undergraduate, I at UCLA, I just came across the field of autism by accident because I thought I wanted to be a teacher. I loved being with kids. My first job in America. So I came to America when I was 19. And my first part-time job was at a preschool assistant, teacher's assistant. And from that point on, I realized that I really enjoy working with kids. So at UCLA, I thought, well, maybe I could explore teaching since I love working with kids so much. And at that point, we were given an option of working with kids or working with adults, with special needs. And to me, it was no brainer. I just want to work with kids.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that. And then I was placed, my field study was working again as a teacher's assistant in an autism classroom. So in Los Angeles at that point in the 80s, many autistic kids, they were part of the young autism study under Dr. Ivar Lovas, who was the founder of ABA. Now, ABA, of course, has been around forever, and it's is well known as the gold standards for young kids diagnosed with autism. So I know a lot about that. And that's how I got started, But I think because I am autistic, it just after doing it for so long, I just realized there's something not right about this.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I got to ask, can you explain ABA?
Yes. So applied behavioral analysis. Sorry. Yeah. So this is where autistic kids are given very intensive in-home program. Sometimes it's also not, today it's center-based. And the premise behind that is that whatever, it's based on conditioning, the conditioning theory that if you want to increase a desired behavior, you want to reward that behavior. And any inappropriate or maladaptive behavior, you don't reward those behaviors. So that's basically in a nutshell, So for example, you could teach kids to sit down by giving a reward, and it would appear that autistic kids learn very, very quickly that way because it's associated with something they want to work for, but at that point, I didn't realize that the whole program was built to change the very true essence of an autistic being autistic, because then your standard is to be neurotypical. And at that point, I didn't know, nobody talked about sensory differences, for example, and how, for example, a lot of people could focus better and process information better if they're allowed to stand, you can buy the standing.
So would you say it's kind of, it's harmful in a way to try to use that, use applied behavioral analysis to kind of curb the nature of someone?
I mean, unfortunately, I think, there are so many well-intentioned people who, like me, they found the calling to serve people with neuro challenges, and the training they received were very much based on applied behavioral analysis. So now you have speech therapists and like teachers,
Mm-hmm.
special education classroom, even like just standard like neurotypical like classrooms for students who are very much like there's always a behavior that's being rewarded and so on, so to me, applied behavioral analysis is really based on fixing the person,
Mm-hmm.
that fixed mindset versus, I think as a parent myself, I have to really figure out how to raise my kids to become good human beings.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the growth mindset part,
Mm-hmm.
and the difference between teaching somebody to be book smart versus helping somebody becoming street smart.
Mm-hmm.
Only parents and guides can do that.
Yeah.
And I think when you try to fit autistic people in this contrived environment, table chair setup, behind closed doors, when parents cannot see what's going on, it's just the application is very, very small.
Mm-hmm.
And I really tried for almost 15 years to do this and I was very eclectic in my approach. I tried to learn, and I finally left it because it didn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, what so that kind of brings me back to the basketball,
Yeah.
because it's like I feel like when there's a flow, an ebb and flow of nature to the
Yeah.
game, and that's what I've always loved. Where it's like there's a intuitiveness when you play a lot, and you can
Right.
start kind of feeling the flow
Yeah.
of it. And I feel like that's the same kind of thing with the nature of helping people grow, where it's like if you focus on I got to fix this person, then you might ruin that. And you focus on I'm helping this person grow. Those are two different
Very much so different, different, right? So when you're autistic, or maybe you have ADHD or other diagnoses, you have a different manual. You should be using a different manual, and no one has this manual. Like you order this product from some other country, and the thing comes with a different manual, and you just have to wing it, and maybe it's not going to be right. Now, raising an atypical child is like that, where you, as a parent, I think now, because of social media and all these books, like Facebook close groups, and there's so many, it's like a lot of these groups are really making parents afraid that I'm not going to be able to raise this kid. It's just like, I feel like parents are so much more in crisis mindset because there's just a lot of noise telling a parent that you got to do this. If you're a dad, your job is now you got to make more money, because otherwise you can't like pay all these co-pays or do this, do that, and you feel like a failure, as opposed to actually all the information you need as a parent is there right in front of you. This child actually has everything you need if you're just like looking from the right lens. Like the stimming, for example, like the need to do certain actions, and that's our native language. Just like, I don't know, going back to my sports hero, for example, like Steph Curry or Patrick Mahomes, they're brilliant because I think they're born, of course, with the wiring to become a great basketball player, or Mahomes is actually a very talented baseball player before he decided to become football player. But the wiring can only go so much without you being given the guidance and the right environment and opportunities to grow. You know what I mean? That's where I think for parents and other neurodivergents here, I think like finding your passion is really, really important, because that's how you're going to find your tribe. You're going to really like grow and own your differences.
Yeah, and I think there's when you said that and talk about Pat Mahomes, I think there's also that sense of allowing a person to be unorthodox. Because I think that's what makes him so special. Is like he can do passes that you can't even plan for.
Oh yeah,
because he grew up like doing all the sports, and it's like there's an unorthodox nature to his. What's there's another person on the Mavs where Luka Doncic.
Yep.
He's like to me
also he's incredible.
Right. He's also extremely unorthodox. And I think there's something special to that where it's like I feel like when we try to kind of like you have to be this like I was reading a few years ago, they were saying how all the pitchers were doing Tommy John surgeries, and it's like there's an increase in it. It's like because they were now being kind of like a farm system where they're all being groomed to be pitchers from the little kids, so they were burning out those muscles. And I feel like when you say that, I think of how when we get more rigid in our teaching and how things should be.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's just unfortunately education today. It's incredible to me how 21st century education still tries to, the core curriculum standards, it's really trying to make kids conform to certain standards that's really not helping them to be able to turn inwards. Like what's great about Steph Curry and Patrick Mahomes, because even when they're not winning, they follow that gut instinct to just react the right way. It doesn't mean that they will win in the end, but that resilience is there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that it just like Kawhi Leonard is also like that, I think.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think you can say that these guys, these athletes are born with that gift. Like they have this, the wiring, that inner voice, the belief in themselves, but they're not going to be who they are today without these right kind of nurturing and opportunities. You know what I mean?
Well, that's also like one of the reasons why I love exploring mental health is get past the basics of like my neighborhood is like, that person's weird. It's like but we never break it down and be like, oh no, this person is dope, but they're dope in this set of ways. Like they're dope in making music, or they're dope in making on the court, but in the classroom setting they don't say anything. It's like so we have all these, and I feel like in the Black neighborhood there's all these skills and talents and brilliance. But if we don't really understand mental health, we'll just kind of fall back to the default setting of just labeling each other weird or a punk or a bitch, and all the basics that we're trained to label each other with.
Right. That's right.
So I'll go for it.
No, I was just saying because, I think if you're talking about parenting, right, and just how to survive in this world, as an adult, what you go back to is how you were parented, because that feels familiar to you, right? And then secondly, you read online, you attend online classes, you listen to people you think know more than you, professionals and stuff like that. That's not going to cut it, because we're a human being. If you're a parent, you're raising a human being. It takes two to tango. You know, you can only influence change, but you can't make change, but you can influence change.
I like that. Now, so now I'm kind of getting ahead, but can you just, so say somebody like, I've always heard autism kind of thrown out there,
Yeah.
and then the spectrum thrown out there.
Yeah.
Can you like, so say I'm just at a bus stop and I meet you and like, hey, who is you? I'm Matt. You Maisie? Hey, what's up? And you say, yeah, I'm into I got the autism pathways, and let me put that up. But like, how would you just, if we just spark up the conversation, how would you break down autism?
If somebody asked me, so what is autism? You know, and I would just say, well, autism is, so if you have autism, if you're autistic, that means you have a different way to process information. It's like this, like maybe I'm an Apple computer and someone else is a Microsoft computer. It's a different operating system. It's not less, it's different. Now, being autistic also means you might have a lot of other co-occurring conditions, right? Like you might have, like for me, I have number dyslexia. I have Ehrlich syndrome, which triggers like migraines very, very easily for me. You definitely have sensory differences. Your sensory profile is different, right? So I'm very, very sensitive to sounds, you know, and I know other autistic people who have very extreme, it's called misophonia. It's a sensitivity to sounds, but it's really, they can't leave the house because it's painful for them to hear certain kind of noises like dog barking or the sound of a like car. You know, I could hear insects buzzing in the other, and it would just, I've cried in the past. Like I told my husband, please kill it. You know, I just can't move. Like seriously. Yeah. Like this, it's not just the sound, but it creates this panic. And for some people, it's really painful, you know? And so, and these kind of sensitivity, it's a really huge obstacle. Yeah. It's a really huge obstacle.
So, and how do you help? So with your organization, how do you help autistic individuals work on those? Because to be out in the world and be, you know, working,
right.
Your organization is built on helping people get jobs and be successful and thrive.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good question. I think start the process of getting the right kind of autism education, meaning that an education that it's not based on a deficit model, traditional model of changing the autism itself. You know, the neurodiversity paradigm, it's actually based on more empathy and compassion, because the way we look at and implement neurodiversity is with the understanding that there has to be compromise, you know, for neurotypical people to understand neurodivergent people, and also both ways, right? So I think we want to share the right kind of autism education based on neurodiversity in the way that it's not just something you read, but it's really something that you can understand and apply, well, you know, to the point. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that's a good, as far as I think there's a lot of, one thing I've talked about is not being, it's not about the label. It's not about the, like, whatever, if it's a diagnosis, whatever it's more of, it allows you kind of like, okay, now if this it helps you guide. Like it's like
Right.
you're
That's
selling,
right.
and then
A
it's
better
like,
manual.
yeah, you
Yeah.
selling the boat, and then it's like, okay, autism. Let me make little tweaks, but you're still
Right.
selling. Like it's not like I'm just gonna hide behind autism or hide behind
Right.
depression or any of that stuff.
Right.
It's like,
Right.
it just helps you tweak and navigate.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this is also important to share, Magic, that even if you get a diagnosis, right? If you're a little kid and your parents tell you, oh, you're autistic, you know, even if you have that label, that diagnosis, that formal name of the condition that you have, it's part of you. If you don't accept it, you know, a diagnosis without a self-acceptance, it's nothing, you know. And this is where I think parents need to be given a much better manual so they're not afraid, you know, because if parents are afraid, we always say that autistic people mask, you know, people like me. And after my diagnosis, I have to unlayer myself, and all these memories of growing up and being excluded in certain things because I just physically couldn't handle it. You know, it just, but for people to really understand it, parents, teachers, therapists, to really understand, well, this child is not able to cope at this point because there is sensory burned out happening. So let's support this person the right way, you know, instead of saying, oh, you're lazy, you're distracted, you have so many excuses, you know. And that noise, when you're a little kid and you're always wondering, why am I not being invited to play dates? Or why, you know, I read this book like 10 times and still I don't get it. Or why today I can't write and yesterday I could, you know. Yeah. So it sticks, it hurts inside, you know, where we try to do our best and people will never see us like doing our good enough. It's never good enough for other people because the standards were being it's a different standard.
Well, I think also I want to bring back to the idea of achievement and accomplishment, because it's not the goals are still reached. Like you've been to UCLA, you know, it's like there's high achievers that get stuff done. So it's like, I think there's that a lot of times, it's like, if like we talked about parents and that not, I feel like there's a sense of not my child, or that shame and embarrassment. And then that gets passed on to the child. Like I'm not going, nope, I don't have none of that. So it's like, but I think there's that, for me, I think everybody, if you breathing, if you living, then you have mental health challenges. Like there's some kind of challenges that you have, that you face, that where you have to overcome or keep pushing and keep working. So I don't think it changes the trajectory as far as what you set out to do. And I, like you said before, it's like, it's the passion and what you're passionate in, that kind of is the driver. And then whatever you discover about yourself along the way helps you continue on your journey, continue on your passion, but not to stop like, oh, I'm diagnosed with depression, let me pack up and fold my passion and call it a day. So I think there's that misconception that a diagnosis means stop life or stop progress or stop your passion. It's like, no, it only enhances and kind of gives you more ability to focus and zero in on your passion.
Yeah. I think, I mean, for me, a diagnosis really helped me to be kinder to myself, you know, and I had a hard time saying no. And the work that I choose to do, of course, to work with autistic individuals, just the nature of that work it takes a lot out of you because that's your passion. You want to make a difference. But it also, I think, I couldn't say no. I had very poor self boundaries because I think maybe part of it, if you are neurodivergent all your life, you want to have a sense of belonging, and you want people to recognize your efforts, for example. And I think that's good and bad, because it's easily like you'll just continue saying yes because you just keep, it's like it gets to the point where it's unhealthy because you just don't know that your self-worth is number one priority, So I think a diagnosis, whether you're self-diagnosed or you're formally diagnosed, allows you to really be kinder to yourself and set boundaries.
Yeah. And then how do you go about, like, we talked about this as far as what's the process? Like, what is self-diagnosis, and getting a diagnosis? What is that process?
I think that if you are in the US, I think you can contact your insurance company and see if there is a neuropsych to help you get a diagnosis. One Facebook group that really helped me actually is this Facebook group called Asperger's and Autistic Not Weird, two different groups. I would suggest, if you think that you're autistic, or maybe you have ADHD, but you're also like very much socially awkward, just explore that way, because it's free. And you can ask any random questions. That's what I love about these two groups, Asperger's and Autistic Not Weird. Even like if you're a parent, or you're a teen, or an adult, you're a father, this is a really good group, because other autistic people, well, first of all, it's being moderated by autistic people, which I love. And no question is stupid. Like, really, it's really random. But it's that randomness that I felt like, man, I could answer every single one of those questions.
I was gonna say a joke.
Like, I love it. It just made me feel like, okay, maybe I'm not the only weirdo here.
So one thing I'm gonna ask: how do you? Because I do feel like we're in an information, since the information age, so that there's information overload,
right?
And you don't want people to live in fear, and it's like, so you have all that. So it's like, how do you help, like, as far as how you give advice for people that are dealing with I talked about in one of my episodes, the paradox of choice, where it's like, because you have so many choices doesn't necessarily mean you're better off. So it's like, so now we're entering this age of, we know so much about mental health, and it's all unraveling, and so much to learn. It's like, how do we keep it healthy, where it's like, let me just add some things and help myself. Right. How did you
So I think for me, I think that what my advice would be, if you are working with someone, maybe a therapist, or if you if you're in that therapeutic relationship, if you have the opportunity to explore that, I would say my first advice would be to listen to your gut feeling. Because if you don't feel respected, if you don't feel hurt, like that person is hearing you, and if that person doesn't communicate compassion, I don't care how many PhDs that person have. No.
Preach.
That's a no.
Preach.
That's a no.
Please.
I've been there. I've been
Mhm.
there where I waited, for a long time to be on someone's waiting list
Mm.
and committed this amount of money thinking, oh, this sounds logical. This person has great reviews. And then I go through it, man, I don't understand this, what the heck this person's talking about. Like, how am I
Mhm.
going to implement it?
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
So a lot of times, whether you're parents of neurodivergent children, really, honestly, your child actually tells you so much. Your
Mhm.
child gives you all the clues. But as parents, we're
It
missing all those.
it's
Like, we're
about
missing it
it's
because
about
we're
listening.
focusing on the wrong things.
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
know?
Mhm.
And a lot of other therapeutic clinicians is the same. Like, they have a long waiting list. Like, they're like just one client after another. And they're just human beings. And um, if you don't feel the connection
Mhm.
with your therapeutic person, because that person is your guide, right? Let me
Yeah.
flip the
Well,
script. That therapeutic, whether it's a neuropsych, a doctor, or a coach, that person is in the position uh, to learn a lot through us too.
mhm.
It's not like we are at their mercy.
Yeah, yeah,
It should be
yeah.
both ways. This
Mhm.
is the neurodiversity paradigm,
Mhm.
where I think as a clinician, when you have a new client, you start over.
Mhm.
You start over because I think, to me, you're not just treating a person.
Mhm.
You're learning about another human being, and you're in this special position where you can inspire and make a difference. How
Yeah,
special that, I
yeah.
don't, I don't, that's how I think I digress. Did I answer your
Mhm.
question?
Well, it's a conversation. It's nothing is, it's like my questions are kind of like, was that a question or was it not a question? That's it's part of the game. It's part of the game. Now I
Yeah.
will say how so with everything that's going on
Right.
and then what's happening in the Bay Area as
Mm.
far as the hate crimes and stuff,
Yeah.
how does that affect you in your process and with everything that's going on and how you process information?
Yeah. That's a good question. There's so much noise,
Mm-hmm.
so much noise, just
Mm-hmm.
like hate, and so much noise, like amplifying our differences, which is very sad to me.
Mm-hmm.
I think our option is to just continue to live in our own bubble where we just don't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Or I think, to me as a parent, I just try to have conversations with my two teens so that
Mm-hmm.
they have the awareness. Um, I think that's important for families to continue to have conversations
Mm-hmm.
about being there for other people, regardless of the different situations, Um, but in addition to that, I just try to continue to do my advocacy like and trying to not preach, but help people to connect the dots, because there's so
Yeah.
many
Yeah.
dots out there, right? But how can you connect those dots in a way that's meaningful to you
Mm-hmm.
as a person, right? As a person first, then as a person who is maybe in the position to guide other people,
Mm-hmm.
whatever you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
right? But you online, you read about, the autism community and the autistic community need to work together, need to listen to each other, and it's really, really hard. I'm in the middle,
Mm-hmm.
and I think another message I would say that, yes, we have to listen to each other, but we also have to listen to ourselves. What we're thinking and what comes out of our mouth and our actions. Do our like actions actually match what we're saying,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can't lie to kids, because my teens will call me out like, "Mom," you know,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
And
that's the hard
autistic,
part.
yeah,
It's like you gotta yeah, we're all evolving. So it's like, so
right,
your kids, I feel like your kids can see when you're stuck and you're telling them to evolve
yeah,
and get better, but you're not. So I feel
right,
like there's that part where it's like it's that that responsibility is still on the everybody to evolve and get
mhm,
better and empower yourself to do better. Because
right,
once you start keep looking at the other, like y'all got to improve, we got to improve. It's
yeah,
like we
yeah,
all are still
yeah,
improving and growing.
yeah. And I think as a neurodivergent, because of this long history of trauma, like
Mhm.
social trauma, like
Mhm.
sensory trauma, all this, my husband said, "Oh, you need better people skills,"
Mhm.
because I could be very black and white too.
Yeah, yeah.
I could be, this is how it should be, and that's it. you
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
so it's really about learning to bend a little both ways,
Mhm.
I think, and yeah, so I think that's important, like to be able to advocate the right way, that we can only maybe talk about pathways, but
Mhm.
uh, everyone just has to make their own
Mhm.
pathways.
Yeah. Now, for me, like when you say that, I think there's a level of there is a level of do it yourself and individualism, but there's also, I think there's some about mentorship
Yeah,
and what was the other one? Um, apprentice.
yeah,
It's like, because I think there's some about that where we learn alongside people better than we learn on our own.
yeah,
So I think there's a balance to it where it's like
yeah,
you learn a certain amount on your own as you're learning with
right,
alongside someone or some kind of a
yeah,
mentorship program.
right.
Now, do you how does that work as far as with autistic in that realm where it's like I think some people are more um, work better alone. Some people work more in groups, depending on how their psyche and how their mind
Yeah,
is
yeah.
wired.
Well, I think if you're just at the beginning of finding out about
Mm,
your diagnosis, I think online, these two Facebook group, I think it's gonna be like a safe way. It's easier to learn from strangers,
mhm,
I think, because you can participate or ask questions, and you don't feel judged.
mhm,
There are also a lot of books that, if you like to read,
mhm,
uh, if that could be a good way to explore. So, like, if you're a parent and your child is autistic, Spectrum Woman is a really good book. It's written by, I think, three autistic mothers who
mhm,
are raising autistic kids. I think that's very interesting. Um, Neurotribe by Steve Silberman is a local guy here. Very, very well researched book.
mhm,
And if you like to read about the history of autism, I think that book is really, really good.
mhm,
Uh, so many books, so many. I love that.
mhm,
And I run free online parenting classes.
mhm,
It's different topics. It's designed to be like a support group where people
mhm,
can come, but we always pick a topic so people can ask. And I always invite other autistic adults to help me answer questions, share experiences, so I do that as much as I can. And I think you can find the subgroups, like if you're an autistic photographer, for example,
What is
there
that?
is a group for that.
Wait. What in the world you just what? Say that again.
If you're an autistic photographer, if
What's
you
a
have a special interest.
photographer?
Yeah.
That's a special interest. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, special interest. If you have special interest, you can find all kinds of people
Mm.
online. Find your tribe and maybe connect with somebody
And
who can like share experiences.
you spoke of some abroad ways to get screenings, because there's not really screenings here.
Yes.
So can you talk a little about
Yeah,
that?
there are actually a couple of online, like free, if you do like Asperger test or autism, like just Google autism, like online tests. There are a few that will, and then it's just like a rating scale test that you just fill out. It measures, or it will ask you questions about your sensory differences, social differences, and you just do it, and then the test will generate the numbers, right? And then it'll just give you like a graph of this is where you are, and it's all free. And it's like I think that if again, if you whether you pay somebody to get the diagnosis or you just do it this route because you can't find anybody or cannot afford a diagnosis, it's what you do with it, right? What you do with that knowledge, really.
And that's where I feel like kind of that's a learning process too. Like you're learning what to do. Like because I remember when I first suspected, like I had at the time undiagnosed depression. Like I didn't just say I got depression. It's like it was 3-4 years of investigation and conversation and therapists before I actually was like, all right, it grew into that of how to navigate and figure that out. And then that led to the next of like, okay, let's make these tweaks. So it's never, I think there's also that not rushing to label. Like I told you before, it's like, I don't do well with labels. Like I never have. This is like, I'm just me. I'm a dude figuring life out.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of how we all are, where we're just figuring life out. Like, and I think with autism, the same way, it's like, how do you, you're learning on the fly. Like life doesn't stop, but it helps you as you're doing the things you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, it's really helpful to have special interests, whatever that may be, something that you can look forward to, connect with other people, and continue to grow and learn. Like that's your passion. It's really important.
Yeah, I was also going to ask you. So how does autism? So say, so how does different diagnosis? How have you experienced like autism playing into that? So it's like if you're bipolar 1, or if you're if you have depressive episodes, if you whatever diagnosis, like have you experienced challenges with that and how that plays with autism?
So many autistic people have co-occurring conditions, right? Depression is one of the co-occurring conditions or comorbidities that can be addressed via medication, and there's no shame in that. I think it's great if medication can help your biggest challenge, with that is, I think, the plus. If you can find somebody, you can figure that piece out, I think it's important to know when you have these co-occurring conditions and get help. It's kind of like, I think, the chicken and egg thing. Is it the autism thing or is it the depression thing? But honestly, at the end of the day, if you have sensory challenges like me, every day is different. It could be 7:00 in the morning and you just wake up and you just feel like, oh my God, it's going to be a tough day. Some days my prayers are like, oh God, please, just give me one day without pain in my head, and that's every day is like that. So, but I think if you have people, immediate family members who love you and support you unconditionally. That helps. That's the other thing that helps a lot. You know, people who can give you space, people who can like call it, hey, how about you just take a rest, or how about you just stay at home, you know, because sometimes,
Well,
yeah.
well, I've talked about this, and I facilitate groups, and it's like one of the things I've noticed that can really exacerbate like a situation is night or day, like where it's like if you have a family member that doesn't believe in anything with mental health, is like you're going to be in a tough situation. And it's like, so I've had a lot of people that I've talked to where it's like they're in that situation where they don't have that support at home, and it becomes like part of
really hard.
It becomes part of the unhealthy environment where it's like they can't unpack, so they have to keep that all in and then find other places and then kind of hide themselves at home. So it's like, so home isn't home. Now you work with autistic people. Like, how do you manage those tough? Because that's a tough situation.
That's a tough situation, especially for little kids who just, I mean, they work so hard. They're the hardest working people on this planet. You know, when the moment you have a label put on you and you have to do like 20 hours of therapy plus school, and you don't even know what's going on, you know, and it's all for like other people's definition of normal, where normal should be thrown out of the window. You know, that's tough. But I think if you are a teen or young adults or adults, where I think you have access through your phone or computer to find this online support group, I think what you're doing is amazing, to just explore together, you know, create a safe space, explore ideas. It's really important, you know, and that's what I love to do as much as I can. You know, I'm about to start a free online support group for autistic adults in Asia, because it's in Asia, it's like, you know, just for similar cause that you're doing this for your own community, for Asian people also. They all hide.
And that's where and I feel like that's the detriment of shame and embarrassment.
That's right.
And it's like, if we reach a level of, this is part of the life experience, like there's such a range of experiences and range of different people and different neurodivergent. I don't know what, like but it's like
we should call it the new frontier. Do you like Star Trek?
Frontier. Yeah, I didn't watch that much, but it's like, but I like that New Frontier.
Because you know, I think neurodivergents are being put here on this earth to help everyone adapt. You know, I think neurodivergence is very much part of evolution and biodiversity, like these years and thousands of years of changes, of small changes that every living being, like over time, you know. And I think neurodivergence, at the core of it, it's really the new frontier.
Well, that's how, and that I like that, because that's, so for me, I'm excited. Mental health is exciting to me, and especially like when I review my background, background of Black folks, is like oh shoot, like things, I start connecting dots and stuff, and it's exciting. And and that's, I'm with you on that. It's like it does feel like a new frontier in a way where we're breaking ground that we've never really explored before. And that's right. So it's exciting. It's exciting to
I think so. It's what makes it hard, Magic. It's because we're trying so hard to adapt. Really, it's hard, but it's even more challenging because the other side is not adapting. You know, this deficit model new research being led by autistic people, ADHD people who are actually out and saying, we are autistic and this is what we're doing. This is our hypothesis questions. This is what we don't want to learn, to really make that change happen quicker. To me, it's so slow. It's so slow. It's like swimming against the ocean with current, where it's just so lonely. It's so isolating. You see how much work that needs to be done, and it's just.
Well, I feel like for me, it's like life is always life. It's like in a way, it's like I think part of the reason why I say it's exciting is because it's life. Like
Sure.
There's I think there's always been a resistance band, but it's like I think there's the more we approach it in a place of this is in rejuvenating, like this is exciting, because like even in any of the issues that we've in our social ills and stuff in society, it was the time where it was never faced, it was never dealt with. And I feel like so with civil rights, with disability, with women's rights, it's like all these things where they were never faced. And it's like, and those people in their time, they went their whole lifetime feeling like they weren't feeling like they weren't validated, feeling like they weren't who they were. And it's like, so I think it's exciting to be able to be at this point where it's like,
absolutely,
you change the next generation where it'll be more of a general understanding of neurodivergent, a neural understanding of diversity within how people's brains work. And I think that's exciting, where it's like, we don't have to, we can leave that for the next generation, where it's like they'll walk into a classroom and they won't be all homogenized as one group of kids. It's like, no, man, these kids are so different, and they all learn differently. And then that's so that's the goal. And that's what's fun. It's fun.
Yeah. I'm so glad we met, because I can't do it alone, and you can't do it alone. It's like everybody is doing their own way of educating and sharing, and I think this is great. I really believe nothing is a coincidence. So I think we could definitely continue to support each other.
There is something to it, because like it's funny, I was talking about this yesterday, but it's like when I was getting into mental health, I was just trying to do comedy and make some jokes about it. This is me being whimsical and self-deprecating as a comic about mental health and my own struggles. It's like, but it's turned into way more than that. And I'm just kind of going along with it myself. But thank you so much. And can you introduce yourself, or your name and what you're doing, and where you can be found in your organization again?
So Maisie Soetantyo, I'm the founder of a nonprofit here in San Francisco Bay Area, Autism Career Pathways. And I run 2 Instagram accounts. So that's where I'm most active with my sharing and advocacy, with my own name at Maisie Soetantyo. That's where I put parenting tips on all topics under neurodiversity paradigm. And the other account at ASD Career Pathways, that's where I basically share information about autistic careers, that just different people, what people are doing, how they got started. There is a YouTube channel on this. And also, I'm very passionate to help figure out employability for people who are more impacted by their autism, non-speaking people who are just needing more complex level of support, because they are, to me, untapped potential as well. So that's my mission, is to be able to help each other better and get rid of personal biases. So just find me. I do usually weekly Instagram live on different topics. Next week, I'm about to interview an autistic screenwriter and director from Ireland who is about to film their movie called Mildly Different. So they are autistic. Anna Sarsa, so she's from Ireland. And so that's exciting to me to be able to really showcase like different people's passion, and
that's dope.
And just learn together as a community. That's really important. Yeah, just keep plugging along.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me. Like, this is dope.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah. And I look forward to our next conversation on some basketball and who's
absolutely more chats later.
All right. Sounds good.
Bye, guys. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. All right, that was Maisie. And thank you for joining me, the Fight the Funk podcast, dedicated to exploring mental health, culture, and the world around us. And check out Maisie, the founder at Autism Career Pathways. And also, if you like Fight the Funk, please donate to buy me a coffee, because a brother like his coffee. You know what I'm saying? And also, there is an ebook dropping that I'm putting out. It's a collection of poetry, some mad scribbles, and so check that out. The ebook is called Ruminating, because this year I think we've been doing a lot of ruminating, man. We've been ruminating a lot. So as we get this sunshine and start getting back out into the world, I wish everybody well, and thank you for joining me. This has been Magic Collins, aka Magic Man. This is Fight the Funk podcast. Deuces.